Okay, welcome back, everybody, as Football Friday continues and people still raving about the interview with Mark Cohon that we just finished. I would have loved to have gone longer. Nelson says, Mark was visible and approachable. That is the biggest difference. He led the fan parade. He was on the Grey Cup train. He'd have beers with fans in pubs pregame. That's Mark Cohon. You know what he was? He was inclusive. Yep. And in a lot of ways, the Canadian Football League has become exclusive.
That's right.
Particularly in the years since Jeffrey Orridge, took over, since Mark Cohon left. Yeah. Orridge and then Randy Ambrosi. Greg Drinnan, a guy that I've had a battle with for years, legendary sports writer, Lynch, you know him well.
Yeah.
He wrote in his column, and I wrote this down, it's going to go in my weekend column. This is from Greg Drinnan, okay? Formerly of the Kamloops Daily News, Winnipeg Tribune, Regina Leader Post. Greg wrote, I would suggest that this day of reckoning has been in the CFL's windshield for a few years now. I don't know exactly when it was that the CFL came to the fork in the road but took the wrong one. But somewhere along the way, it lost track of who it is. So in the absence of games right now for the Canadian Football League, unfortunately, the league is going to get hammered on some mistakes that it's made here for the last close to a decade or so. And sorry, but the truth hurts. And there are no games to talk about. This is what's in the news now.
And they deserve it.
Well, they do, unfortunately. I mean, do you think Cohon wanted to leave? I'm sure they drove him nuts. Yeah. And that's why I'm not putting the blame at Ambrosi's feet. No. Jeremy Davis writes in, he says, the CFL might be canceled, but the Sim is pretty entertaining. Shout out from the Toronto control room. Well, thank you, Jeremy. He's operating the game on Game Plus right now. Thanks, Jeremy. Tonight, 7 p.m. Mountain, Saskatchewan, Edmonton. We're bringing Lynch in out of the bullpen to do color. You're looking forward to it?
Oh, I sure am.
I've tried to explain to our 82-year-old friend a little bit about the Sim. I've showed him clips, but you're really going to get it tonight when you do color. You're going to have fun.
Interesting.
Cody Fajardo and Trevor Harris. And by the way, it's Trevor Harris's debut. We have not broadcast a game with Edmonton yet this year. I don't think, right, guys? I know we haven't. Sports update, maybe way back at the start, you're right. The Calgary Flames watched their 3-goal lead quickly disappear, and then their season came to an end as we turn our attention to a Friday sports update. Calgary jumped out to a 3-0 lead in Game 6 against Dallas, only for the Stars to respond with a 5-goal second period en route to a 7-3 victory and a series win in 6 games. Cue the meltdown in Calgary. That's our poll question today for Capital Automall Universal Collision Center. Should the Flames retain interim head coach Jeff Ward, make him the full-time head coach? On Twitter, the majority saying no. On Facebook, the majority saying yes. All that matters is what GM Brad Treliving says, the former Brandon Wheat King and Regina Pat. The New York Islanders are heading to round 2 in the Toronto playoff bubble. The Isles knocked off the Washington Capitals, knocked them out of the playoffs, beating them 4-0 in Game 5 last night. Philly Flyers defenseman Matt Niskanen has been suspended for 1 game for cross-checking Montreal forward Brendan Gallagher in the face and breaking his jaw. Niskanen will sit out Game 6 today with his team up 3-2. Was the suspension warranted in your mind?
Yeah, definitely. Well, definitely.
I don't believe it. Well, he didn't bring the stick up.
But you can't break a guy's jaw.
It was an accident. A misunderstanding.
Oh, many times.
It wasn't intentional.
It was an accident. It was a Tonatica. Well, hell, it wasn't any of them. It was intentional.
The Blue Jays took both games of a doubleheader against the Philadelphia Phillies to extend their win streak to 5 and now find themselves just 3 games back of a playoff spot. Toronto erased a 7-run deficit to beat Philadelphia 9-8 in the second game to improve their record to 12-11. The NBA draft lottery was delayed 3 months, but the Minnesota Timberwolves are certainly feeling that the wait was worth it. The Timberwolves won the number 1 pick. Watched it last night. It was far more efficient than the NHL draft lottery, I thought. Meanwhile, on the court, the Greek Freak had 28 points as the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Orlando Magic 111-96, tying that first-round series 1-1. Meanwhile, AD had 31 points and 11 boards, and the top-seeded Lakers bounced back from an opening night loss and beat Portland 111-88. The sports update for Ballers, Rec Room, Saskatchewan's newest entertainment destination. Our arcade games and batting cages are officially open. No reservation needed. And for Red Bull Canada, Red Bull gives you wings. Robin in Prince Albert's watching and says, Game Plus should broadcast the Sim Grey Cup. Well, Game Plus seems very interested in our CFL Sim broadcasts and the league. You can follow on Twitter at CFL Sim. We've got the rosters up on there. We've got the game notes. We've got everything getting ready for tonight's game at CFL Sim. Thank you. Here's the thing about Lynch. You and I did a game together. I remember the game very well. It was in 2008.
That's certainly August 8th of 2008.
Good for you. In Calgary.
Yeah, Carm's sister was getting married. He couldn't make it, so you asked me to come along with you, and it was wonderful.
Wasn't it great?
Huh?
Wasn't it great?
It was incredible. We had preliminary. We had a big preliminary night.
That's right.
I mean, we felt good about that, and the game itself was pretty good, too.
The Riders won on a last-second field goal miss by Sandro DeAngelis, if you remember.
That's right.
And it was Matt Dominguez's last ever game as a Saskatchewan Rough Rider. Tore his knee up, the former Denver Bronco and New York Jet, and Lynch and I were there to call it. We'll be back behind the microphone tonight for CFL Sim Friday Night Football. Arlene in Saskatoon continues with the discussion. She says, inclusive versus exclusive, the ongoing issue for the CFL. The gate-driven, fan-based league really needs the corporate sponsorship. Can you put the rest of it up? Because it slid off the screen here. Which tends to become more exclusive and vice versa. That's all part of, listen, you're singing from the same hymn book as me.
Yeah.
There was a great article on this in the Globe and Mail a couple of years ago that they don't really cover the CFL anymore. Is there a Globe and Mail anymore? Anyways.
Yeah, I guess there is somewhere.
They said
we don't get it here.
Yeah, I don't think we do.
Beautiful.
CFL thinks it's NFL light, and it's not. That's kind of where the CFL got away from its roots. When Greg Drinnan writes that the CFL's lost its way or lost itself, it stopped connecting with the fans. I've seen it before my very eyes, and that's what they need to get back to. And I wonder when these presidents and owners and governors put their heads together here, Lynch, and talk about what's next for the CFL. Obviously, they're going to be stripping jobs, and Wade Miller's talked about the efficiency. It needs to be more efficient. It needs to be more fan-friendly, i.e. cheaper tickets, fan involvement, because that's what it was built on.
That's right.
And they've got away from what they were built on.
That's right. I hope they're honest and look at things honestly, not in a cloud, in a dream world. I think Wade Miller's a great guy. Our former president, what's his name?
Hobson.
Hobson was sensational. One of the most sensational people to ever be involved in the league because he was a player too.
Of course.
A player too. And they can really put their heads together and be honest about things. And they've got to get something done in Vancouver and Montreal, or else we're not going to have a league. We'll be doing the same thing here next year. So that's my concern. They've got to be honest with themselves. I would like to see, if it could be arranged, Mike Cohon go to a couple of meetings at first as a consultant.
I'm sure he doesn't want to, though, John.
Well, I know he doesn't want to, but I think it would be a good thing for Canada. Canada's a country. And I hope somebody from Ottawa, I'd like to have somebody like Trudeau himself come to one of those meetings to see how important football is to Canada. I think Justin...
I got to stop. I'm sorry, because you're on a roll, and I apologize. But Mike Blackbird's writing in from Toronto. He says, I just said all this, he said. But no... You're more than entitled. You're sitting here. He's not. But he said, I missed my $5 pizza tickets. And this is funny because I remember the 2016 Grey Cup in Toronto where Pizza was giving away Grey Cup tickets. I remember that. And everybody was up in arms. And for good reason. Some people paid $300, $350 for the Grey Cup tickets. And here's Pizza. Come in and order an extra large for $30. We'll give you 2 Grey Cup tickets. I remember walking in with a CFL buddy of mine, a former player, who on a goof walked into Pizza downtown on Simcoe and said, here's $30. Give me the pizza. Keep the tickets. It's a great deal for the 2-for-1. Just as a joke. But I was on the radio in Ottawa the other day, TSN Ottawa, and Dean Brown, you'd know.
Yeah, very well, yeah.
Of course, the voice of the Senators, called Ottawa Rough Rider games for 10 years. That's where you'd know him from.
Yeah, that's right.
He goes, listen, your MLSE rumor, Rod, isn't new. I've been hearing this, and I hear that if you are a Raptors or a Maple Leaf season ticket holder, you'll get free Argos tickets. Do you think, Rod, that makes the Argos look bad? And I said, no, not at all. We'll welcome anybody into the CFL stadiums if it happens to be for free tickets because the product is so good, you'll come back. Yeah. So those pizza promotions, I don't think is a bad thing at all.
I have the biggest concern, you know what it is. Do Toronto really want to be in the league.
Yes.
I've been told, as you know, again
Yes.
last week, that the people in Toronto really don't want to be in the league. I've been told by the former commissioner of this, or the president of this Rough Rider football team, or not the commissioner, general manager, that in Toronto, people drive home, turn around and watch TV and watch football. They love football in Toronto.
I believe that.
It's just getting there is a problem.
BS. They get down to Rogers Centre. They get down to Scotiabank Centre. They don't bitch about that. They just bitch about going to Argo games. They don't bitch about going to Blue Jays games or Leaf games. That's a joke. But I've heard from so many people, particularly since this show went to air on Game Plus, all across Ontario on Rogers Cable and Cogeco, they love the CFL talk. They were raised with the CFL out there.
Of course they were.
It's not just the Argos. Ticats, Argos, and whatever they want call themselves in Ottawa these days.
Yeah.
They're all CFL fans out there. They need the coverage. Anyways, we'll take a time out. I'm sorry, Glenn Erickson, my friend from dubnetwork.ca, a junior hockey website that I write for. He says every cross-check is intentional. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. But we can disagree and still be friends. He turned into Brendan Gallagher. And if you watch Brendan Gallagher in his career, he goes face first all the time. These things are going to happen. But they had to suspend Niskanen too. I get it. Thank you. Rod ran for Bronco Plumbing and Heating. Bronco Plumbing and Heating. Tell them Rod sent you, and you'll get 10% off your bill. Viewer Takeover is next. It's the RP show across North America on Game Plus TV Network, and listen live at rodpeterson.com.
You're watching Rod Peterson On Demand. For more of The Rod Peterson Show, visit rodpeterson.com or follow Rod Peterson on social media.